I'm Bonnie Rabikoff. Welcome to In the Kitchen. This week in the kitchen with me is Executive Chef Ted Habiger from Room 39. Thank you for inviting us into your kitchen.
You're welcome.
Well, you have two kitchens. You have one on 39th Street, thus the name, and then you have one out here at Mission Farms. Tell me about the move here and why.
You know, it was one of those things where the space in Midtown is 11 tables, and we can't expand either way. It was one of those things where we had so much talent. We had a wonderful chef, a sous chef, my business partner Andy Sloan, myself. We're all chefs, and we needed space to grow. And so we were approached about Mission Farms, and to me, this is going to be like the Brookside in 30 years. You know, it's still part of the city. It's in Old Leawood, barely. It's on the edge. It's an area that I grew up observing from 435. You know, and it's really a nice multi-use. You know, business, residential. It's not a strip center. You know, it's a place where we could really put our roots down and be here for 15, 20 years.
And we hope so.
We hope so.
So you've been around though. I mean, you spent some time in New York and came back here. Tell us a little bit about your background, your training, your experience.
Sure. My mentor was Steve Cole from Cafe Allegro.
That's a mighty mentor.
He was always known for being pretty tough on everybody, and so that really...
the results showed at the table.
Right, exactly. He was a perfectionist. It allowed me to really develop my skills, and at a certain point, I felt like I had learned kind of everything I could, after 4 or 5 years with Steve, and he encouraged me to go to New York City and told me to make a list of all the best restaurants that I could work for, and I did, and I went out there and tried out and became a grill cook, really, for Union Square Cafe. The Danny Meyer-owned, Michael Romano was the chef, restaurant, near Union Square.
So I heard that you were going to come back to Kansas City when you left, and you kept your promise, and it was for the purpose of opening up a restaurant?
Sure. Well, and my wife's from here, and we decided to move back home and raise a family. And when I was on my way back to town, I phoned my good friend Andy Sloan, who was my sous chef at Cafe Allegro when I left. I kind of left him with the bag there and had him controlling the place. And he was in between jobs, and so we said, well, let's do this. Let's open up a restaurant. Let's get it done.
And so the concept for Room 39, the food is?
It's seasonal American, which simply means that we're using American ingredients, things from our local farmers like chicken livers, we can use lobster if we want. That's a very American ingredient. And doing things seasonally. So, we're not serving asparagus in the middle of August or September. We're serving tomatoes in August and September. Serving asparagus generally in April and May. And then, which does make for some challenges in the winter months, but then we just kind of hunker down with our root vegetables and do a lot of braised meats and try to use as much local product as possible.
So, seasonal American, and you all are devoted to that seasonal concept.
Yes. So
that means you must be having some relationship with the local growers. And tell us a little bit about what that's like and how you developed that.
That's a very, very big part of our day and our concept. These relationships with farmers, they go back, 16, 17 years back to when things that Steve Cole actually developed some of these relationships. There's a farmer, Thane Palmberg in DeSoto, Kansas, that I actually went and worked on his farm for 2 days right after I left Cafe Allegro. I thought, well, maybe I'll be an organic farmer, or something. I discovered.
But what an experience, though, to be that close to the food source.
Right, but I discovered I couldn't do it. I didn't have the same muscle group that farmers have. I'm too tall. You got to be down on the ground pulling beets out of me. I was like, okay, this isn't for me. But
gained a sincere appreciation for what they do.
These are hard workers
as are you,
that love vegetables and love produce. And I love what they do because everything tastes so much better when it's fresh out of the ground, when it hasn't been trucked from California Salinas or Mexico or something. When we get it, we sometimes will talk to the farmer on a Wednesday night. He'll go out and pick that night or the next morning and bring us that produce by 8 a.m. on Thursday.
So the difference is, and other chefs have said this as well, you can season, you can cook, but you can't compensate for lack of really fresh produce.
Right. I mean, our primary seasoning ingredients are salt and pepper, for the most part. A lot of what we do is simply the flavor of the product.
And speaking of product, when we go back into the kitchen, let's talk about some of the food products that we're going to prepare.
Right. We're going to use some zucchini. We're going to do a little dish with a heritage pork chop, with zucchini pappardelle, and then some hominy. And this is not your out of the can hominy. This is hominy that there was this has actually got a Kansas City connection. It's really neat. There's a company in Napa, California now called Rancho Gordo that they ship us these heirloom beans and pozole or hominy, which they've made themselves and kind of protected these old. These are products that have been in America for 500 years, and the indigenous people took care of these beans and passed them on from generation to generation. And they almost got lost at one point in the 50s and 60s. We just kind of forgot about good food.
Genetically engineer produce to...
Yeah, everyone just started buying the Great Northern beans that were, packaged at the grocery store, and that was what was being produced, and the local stuff wasn't being produced anymore. So these have been protected. It's the same thing with the pork. This particular breed that we're going to be using is Berkshire, whereas most of the pork that we eat today, or that's mass produced, is a combination of about 3 different breeds that have been genetically, they haven't been altered, but they've been engineered in such a way to breed the biggest pig that grows the fastest. Not necessarily the most flavorful. That's not the most important thing.
Or maybe even the most nutritious.
Right, exactly. Right. But these Berkshire pigs, they have wonderful marbling. They delicious flavor, and it's kind of a pure breed that is so different than everything, than anything else you can have.
So it's one of the places in Kansas City for a unique experience, in that I know that the produce and the food on my plate has come from folks that you have a personal relationship with, that you have a sense of trust, they have credibility with you.
Correct. I like to use the example of chicken. Even my wife, in the last, when she's cooking chicken at home, 10 years ago when we met, she was like, I'm afraid to cook chicken because it scares me, because it's kind of gross, and I'm like, well, I'm not afraid to cook chicken because the ones that I'm using they're from Carol and Jay Maddox, who I've known for 15 years from Campo Lindo Farms, and I've watched their kids grow up. I've met I know where their chickens are running around. I know what they eat. It's really great to hear guests say to us when they're having eggs on like Saturday brunch. They're like, and this is usually in the summer, they say, boy, did you put fennel in the eggs? I'm like,
what's that flavor?
No, that's the egg. The egg, and the chickens probably ate some wild fennel that was out there in the grass. It's just such a wonderful thing to see that just shine through like that.
Actually, I think that the organic free-range chickens actually taste, if I can use this word, sweeter.
Yeah.
It's just a different flavor, and once you start eating that, we're grateful to Room 39 for establishing that relationship and for providing a venue for us where we know that when we come here, we're going to get the freshest, most flavorful food. We appreciate what you're doing, and I think we should go back in the kitchen and cook some of this fabulous food. Joining me in the kitchen is partner and chef Andy Sloan. Andy, again, thank you for inviting us into your kitchen.
Thank you for being here.
All right, let's talk about the feature for this dish, and that is pork.
I have a Berkshire pork chop, and We have the entire rack, and what we're going to do is we're going to show everybody how to cut it down.
Okay.
We'll also show you how to French it and brine it and make it as flavorful as we do.
All right, now I'm in the grocery store and I want to select some pork chops. So what do I look for that indicates that this is a really good piece of meat?
Well, you're always looking for freshness first.
And how do you know that from looking at it?
From looking at it, that it's nice and clean. It doesn't have a sheen to it. It's bright, nice pink.
As the opposite of fish, which is supposed to be shiny, we don't want our meat to look shiny.
We don't necessarily need a sheen to it. Yes,
Okay.
and then the fat on it
Bright
should be
pink, I'm
bright
sorry.
pink,
Bright pink,
and the fat should be white. It shouldn't be
white.
gray. It shouldn't be green. It should be a nice white.
Does that mean that it's fresher and more flavorful?
It means it's going to be fresher for sure. When you're talking to your butcher, if you want something of a heritage, you can ask them if they have anything.
So what does heritage mean? These animals have not been modified in
They have
any
not
way?
been modified. A lot of times they'll end up they're organic. They're the same strain of pig that has been around for many, many years. They're not feeding them lots of chemicals and things that you don't want to have in your food.
So what should these pigs have been fed?
Most of them should be fed just corn.
Yes.
Some of them, you just have to talk to the farmers, but some of them will end up being, grass or whatever. But mostly corn.
Mostly corn. So we're looking for a drier looking pig, not dry, but drier, no shiny on it.
Yeah.
We're looking for white fat, and preferably, if you can, a heritage pork, which means that it's what's been around for a long time. It's got great flavor. It's been well fed and cared for.
It should just be nice and clean, and if you touch it, it should not be real tacky or any of that.
Okay. All right, let's go back in the kitchen and cook it.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, we're in the kitchen of room 39 and I am here with Chef Andy Sloan. Andy, we're getting ready to make the main feature of this dish, pork chops. And my assignment?
You're going to make a brine so that we can brine the pork in advance. We'd like to do it a day in advance. It's going to tenderize a little bit. It's going to pull out some of the blood. It's just going to make it, we put a little sugar and juniper berries. So it's going to give it a sweetness and a little saltiness that it needs to cook up properly.
Okay, so while I'm doing that, you're going to show us how to butcher this.
I'm going to butcher the pork for you.
Okay, just so I've got brown sugar,
brown sugar, salt. You also have juniper berries, bay leaves, black pepper, garlic clove that I've cut in half.
And that's just that. You don't need to take it out of the, no. And so juniper berries and bay leaf.
And black pepper. And then add in the salt.
So about what are we looking at in terms of ratio here?
For this entire rack of pork, I'm going to end up doing a half cup of brown sugar, a half cup of salt, water, just enough to cover the pork in the end once we're brining it, and then really whatever spices and seasoning you like. So we like the flavor that the juniper and the garlic gives to it.
We do this the day before.
Do it the day before, that way it has time to tenderize and just kind of, like I said, sweeten up the pork a little bit for you.
You could either have your butcher do this.
Absolutely.
Or you can do this in the event that you don't want to do this yourself. But you should develop a relationship with your butcher.
If you go in, you ask them about different cuts of meat, they can walk you through anything.
But any good butcher at any grocery store should have that information.
Absolutely, and they can even give you ideas on how you want to do it, if you want to grill it, if you want to sear it, and you can talk to them about different cuts and how you like them prepared.
You're going to show us how to cut this.
What we're going to do is I'm going to show you two different ways, and this is the entire rack of pork, and I'm going to just go through, and I'm just going to keep it right close to the bone.
Okay.
We're just going to pull through, and when I get down there.
So
what we've got here is we've got a pork chop that I've taken off there. I'm going to leave that one on there because a lot of people do like some of the meat that you can get up at the top of the bone. But here at room 39, we like to French them. It's
And they do that with lamb as well, and I think it is because in restaurants we generally don't pick up or start chewing on it.
But here at Route 39, we actually do encourage you to pick up the bone, which is why we like to French them.
Okay.
Because there is still good meat that you can't get with that knife, so pick up the bone and eat it.
There you go.
There's no reason not to.
Okay, now you're
So-
going to show us the Frenching technique.
Absolutely.
All
So
right.
what I've done is I've cut off the chop. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to just French down about there so that I still have that nice piece of meat
Yep,
right
we don't want
there.
to lose that.
So I'm going to take the knife, I'm going to go right around.
All right, so you're turning the entire chop around,
Absolutely.
and then,
Now that I have that, I go back
and
to the
using the
bone.
smaller knife, obviously.
Smaller knife, paring knife,
Oh, you're scraping that little guy.
and you just
okay.
scrape the meat right off.
And it is a beautiful presentation. It is to French it. And all this happens prior to, and you could save this for stock or any number of uses. So we have two examples of how you could serve it. This and then Frenched.
Then the clean Frenched.
Once we're done cutting all this up, it's going into the brine that
Absolutely.
we will have been. How long should we cook that?
And all you need to do is dissolve the sugar and the salt.
So just a matter of minutes.
A couple of minutes, you're gonna pull it back off. And then if you pour it over ice, it needs extra liquid, so it'll cool down immediately. You can take the pork and you can immediately put it in there, put it in your fridge, and keep it in there overnight.
Well, I think we're ready for the next step here.
Perfect.
Okay. In the kitchen with me now is Executive Chef Ted Habiger, and we're getting ready to do, if you will, the sides for our grilled heritage pork chop. And those are two sides. One is the hominy, and the other is the zucchini pappardelle. This is hominy.
Correct. This is what we talked about earlier. This
Yes.
is the Rancho Gordo hominy. Now,
This is, our pork chops were put in the night before, and we have another thing
right.
into the brine, and now we have another thing that we need to do the night before. And so tell me.
anything like that, if you cook it too fast, what will happen is the outside will cook. If you don't put it in the water overnight in the fridge, the outside will cook really fast and fall apart, and the inside won't be done yet. And
Not a good thing.
Right. So the best thing to do with this is just to put it into water, and that's just regular water out of the tap.
Regular water, and then,
And then just put that
in
in the
the
fridge.
refrigerator.
It can- or
And
into
no
the corn
seasoning,
there.
just plain old water.
Plain. In fact, I don't want salt in there at all until the finished process, because salt will end up making it less tender.
Okay, chef, so out of the refrigerator, it's had a little bath overnight, or
Right.
it's been soaking overnight, and now we're getting ready for the hominy. What do we need to do?
Now we want to cook it, but the simplest thing now is just to take this. You want to scoop out the hominy, because what may be in the water now is some of the impurities on the top that are floated to the surface. So I just take a slotted spoon and just scoop everything out and put it into the pot, and then we'll put. We can either cook that with chicken stock if you like, or we can cook that with plain water.
And our hominy is ready to be flavored.
Right. Since there's no salt or pepper in there at all, we want to put in a, as the French like to call it, a bouquet garni. I've got a leek from one of our farmers.
And I might say that is a gorgeous
Isn't that
leaf.
beautiful?
And what I want to point out is the amount of white and light green, the ratio of it compared to maybe more commercially produced.
Right. I've washed this a little bit already and cleaned it off. But if you slice down the center, then you also should go over and just wash out anything in between. And I leave the bottom on like that,
Oh, you
so
do?
it doesn't fall apart. I
Okay.
can just get in.
Oh,
and-
for the washing.
Right.
For washing.
And run this all underwater, just like this. Just kind of like pull it all apart. And then once that, we'll just pretend like this is washed
Right.
here, because we've already made our hominy for
Right.
today. Because this takes about 3.5 hours to cook.
So you would do this earlier in the day.
You could do this earlier in the day. You
Or
could
the
do
day
it
before.
2 days before.
Tell me what we're looking at here.
Now this is called summer savory.
Tell me what savory, I'm tasting
Yeah.
it, and it's so fresh and green tasting.
It's one of my favorite herbs, and it's
Why
very
don't I use that?
underused.
I'm going to start using this.
It's kind of a combination of thyme and
It is.
oregano.
That is the perfect description of it.
Yeah. So I'll just
Oh my
put that in the
gosh, that
center.
is heaven.
Isn't that great?
Yes, it is. And it's pretty too.
And then I've got a little bit of butcher twine that if you develop your relationship with your butcher, you just say, hey, can you give me some of that twine?
But no, I am twine too.
But you just tie this on, and I just kind of wrap it around like this.
Oh, that's beautiful, just like it is.
Yep, and then make one more tie down at the
No,
bottom.
as much as I cook, I haven't used savory because I think I didn't understand it.
Okay, so we've got our
A
little
new herb for probably
bouquet
many
there.
of us.
I'm going to cut off a little bit of the top just so
Okay.
it fits in there.
All right, so this is our seasoning, and then we're going to add water or chicken
We're gonna add water this time.
this time.
And then we'll put that on the stove and bring that to a boil, reduce the heat to simmer, and let that cook for about 3 hours. And we'll just
Again.
keep going over there and just tasting it.
All right, so now we're on to the third item on the plate, which is the zucchini pappardelle. For that, we have
Well, we've got some zucchini this is from our farmer in DeSoto, Kansas, Thane Palmer. Now, when you're choosing zucchini at the farmer's market, you
Yes.
want to choose something that's not too big. It should be firm.
it gets tougher. It changes its
Oh,
taste
yeah.
when it gets too big. Bigger is not always better.
I feel like it's very much the case with summer squash.
Right.
There is one variety called gugutsi, which is a huge kind of long neck
Which is a
squash.
different
It's
variety.
almost like a cucumber
Yes.
mixed with a squash. That one can be big. For zucchini, I like to choose a piece that's about the size, no bigger than the width of my hand.
Okay. And what else are you looking for? Obviously, it shouldn't be wrinkled because it's gotten too old.
Right.
And it should feel heavy for its size.
Exactly.
This
It
is really
it shouldn't
fresh.
feel hollow at all.
And we've got
A little bit of garlic
and
some heirloom tomatoes.
heirloom tomatoes. We're talking about it's just bursting with juice.
Yeah,
inside.
and they all have different flavors, and mixed all together like this, this
Gonna
will
have
be wonderful.
complex depth.
And then we also have some squash blossoms that
They're pretty.
now these came from our chef de cuisine's house. He picked these up on his way into work today, and we got a little bit of rain last night, and we didn't know if we would have these or not, but we do. They survived
do.
the rain.
Now, this is a mandolin. It's not one of those honker, expensive stainless steel giant things.
Right.
It's something that anyone can use.
Right. These can be purchased at at an Asian grocery store.
Right.
One down in the River Market, and they cost about $30. They're very simple. You do have to make sure that you watch your fingers. It even says it on the side usually.
And for those like me, wrap a towel around your.
Right,
Yeah,
and they
you
come
do
with
that.
guards. I don't use them
I
because
know
I'm
the
used to
chefs
it.
don't, but the home
But you
cooks
should.
Yeah.
You really should.
So we'll
There's
let you do that part. And
there's a
there's
little
just adjustment,
That
right?
makes the adjustment. We're going to go for kind of a, and I just kind of look down the barrel of it.
What are we
see.
looking for? About a.
I'm looking
where
for
are
maybe
you?
like the width of a quarter.
Okay.
You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin. If it's too thin, it'll fall apart when we cook it. If it's too thick, it won't bend like pasta.
Okay. So we're going for pastata zucchini.
So I'm going to cut off just the very tip of both ends. That's not quite as flavorful parts. And then we'll just
Oh, you're doing it lengthwise.
Lengthwise.
Oh, how pretty is that?
the ribbon.
Oh,
And you want to do this very
slowly.
slowly and right before you're going to cook it, because zucchini has some liquid in it, and you don't want it to weep too much before you cook it. So don't do this. I mean, this is such a simple part. You can do this right before you put it on the stove. And you just do a nice, even motions. Don't rush it. You don't want to hurt yourself. So that's about right. We'll put that off to the side. We're going to put these squash blossoms in there too.
We're going to saute the squash blossoms at the same time.
Yeah, I love squash blossoms because they pretty much taste like squash.
All right, now for the tomatoes. How are we going to cut these
next
little
thing for
guys?
the tomatoes is that I'm simply going to cut them probably in quarters, depending on the size. Because you kind of want some hunks in there, not too big.
This is almost pink.
Aren't those wonderful?
They're beautiful.
Now, these smaller ones, like this smaller one, I'm just going to cut in half.
Okay, so, and there's a reason for wanting your food items to be about the same size, and that's just simply because they'll cook more evenly.
They'll cook more.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to cut these. This is the biggest one, so I'm going to cut it a little bit more.
So here we are with the garlic. Well, how many cloves are we going to use?
I think we're just going to use a couple.
Okay. What are we going to do with
Now
them?
we always use fresh garlic instead of and I would encourage people to buy it in the full bowl, not in the peeled ones already.
Yep. There's a difference.
There really is.
There is a
the
difference.
ones that have been peeled for several days.
And they've been hanging around like
right,
that.
and I just peeled these before, and they're much harder than you will find
More
in the already
flavor.
peeled.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we're just going to thinly slice
Right.
them.
I'm going to take off the very end.
And
Each
people
one.
forget to do that, and it's unpleasant when it hits your mouth.
Yeah,
and it's just
not
takes,
going to hurt you. Or anything. It's just
no,
to
but
taste
it's
good.
just
Try to thinly slice these.
Okay.
You can use a razor blade if you like. but
Keep your fingers curled
right,
up under.
Keep them curled up if you want them to
And
kind of
you-
melt into the sauce.
Right, you've sharpened the knife, so you're getting a good result there.
Correct.
We have
Okay.
everything ready to go to the stove.
That's right.
We're ready. Okay.
We're ready to go.
These pork chops have been overnight in the brine. You've cut them, you've Frenched them, and now we're ready to grill them up.
A little olive oil on there.
Okay.
And then, as Ted mentioned earlier, a lot of things we do, we just do salt and pepper. So that's all
Right.
we're gonna do. A little salt,
Because we've got a phenomenal pieces of pork here.
absolutely, a little pepper. We're gonna flip them over. We're gonna get the other side. And I usually don't add any more oil. What I do is I just kind of
Okay.
take that excess. That way we're not wasting any.
Right.
And just kind of rub it around in there. A little more pepper. A little more salt, and then
And
we're
you
just,
do that right before,
Right before.
you put it on.
now we're just gonna throw these right on the grill. We're gonna cook these to a nice medium.
I'm always told you don't sit there and play with the food while it's on the grill.
It doesn't help.
Because it doesn't help because you want to get the markings on there. You don't want to press on it. It presses the juice out. And so, about how long on each side?
It's going to be about 4 or 5 minutes on each side, somewhere around there. What I will look at, and the only time you'll see me really playing it, I will turn it so that we
Just to take a peek.
so we can get some
Yeah.
diamond marks on
Oh,
there. And then
okay,
also,
okay.
sometimes depending on the grill and how much fat is on the pork, sometimes you will get a little bit of flare-ups from that.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to watch for that because then you'll end up with a charred flavor on it. So if it starts to
Little
flare
water?
up, you don't even have to do that. Generally, you can just kind of pull it and move it to a little cooler spot on the grill.
So if you're outside grilling, which probably most of us are going to be doing this time of
That's
year,
what we're hoping.
then just move it around a little bit.
Yeah,
on the
just
grill.
move it. If you take your hand, if you can feel really quickly without burning yourself
Yes,
where your
the
hot
hot
spots
spots.
and where your cool spots are on the grill.
Do you recommend if you're grilling at home on your Weber or whatever that part of the grill you make hot and the other part a little cooler? Or do
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this should be on the hot part.
Yes, put it on
Yes.
the hot part, and then if you start having some of those flare-ups, you can pull it over
Move
to
it
the cool
over.
spot for a second, then get it back over.
Okay. Okay, chef. The pork chops are grilling.
Pork
The
chops are
hominy has been done. It's cooking. It has cooked on the stovetop.
Yep.
And now those gorgeous vegetables that you cut up. How are we going to make our pappardelle?
Okay. So we've got, we'll go ahead and put our pan on the heat just to get it warmed up a little bit.
So at home, what medium high?
I would say medium high.
Medium high.
Medium
Okay.
high. I don't have it on full blast or anything, but I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there, just enough to coat the pan.
And when do we
Roll
know
that
that
around.
that's ready?
Basically, we want to look at it right before it starts to smoke.
Okay, and you can smell it. You can smell the olive oil.
You can
so-
smell it, and we can see just a little bit of wisps of smoke coming from it now because my pan was nice and warm.
Okay.
So it's ready to go.
It's ready to go?
Yep.
All right.
And the first thing we're gonna do is add the tomatoes. So
Tomatoes first.
Right, and that'll kind of make a little bit of a noise. You gotta be careful then. We're looking to break down the tomatoes a little bit, and also get a little bit of that liquid. We're gonna need that liquid. So I'm gonna smash some of the tomatoes up just a little bit.
This is obviously a seasonal dish. If you just had to have this dish in the middle of winter, could you use a high-end canned organic tomato for this, or
You could. The other problem you would end up with,
result, though.
and you won't have the good zucchini either.
Oh, that's
And
true.
it's one of the things that what grows together goes together.
Yep.
So I would just wait.
Just wait.
It's like
Something to
asparagus.
look forward to.
If you wait, and then all of a sudden in April you're like, oh, asparagus, I
And-
can't wait. So as you can see, I'm getting a little bit of color around the outside. That's
And it's
good.
almost like thickening a little.
A little bit,
too.
yeah.
Just a little bit.
We want that. We want kind of a little bit of a charred flavor. We don't want a completely raw tomato flavor here. I'm gonna let those go for just a
Gets a
second.
little is.
The next part goes a little fast, so I'm going to add garlic. Now, garlic will burn so fast, so I'm going to add a little bit of garlic, and then I'm immediately going to add a touch of stock.
Okay.
So,
So,
a little bit of garlic,
a little bit of garlic, and no sooner do you stir it than
stir it, smell it. It'll become fragrant. All that garlic flavor will come through.
And then
If
once
we wait
that-
too long, it'll burn.
when
You don't
we're
want to
just
do
not
that.
going to do that. Okay.
And I'm going to do this is called deglazing.
And you're using a warm stock, so if you've got your stock ready, just warm it up a little bit.
Just a little bit. And then that will, you see, it'll take some of those flavors, some of the flavors off the bottom of the pan.
But we get detailed flavors, which is the point of it. Yep.
That's right. So the garlic's in there, the tomatoes in there. Now we're going to add the zucchini.
Look how beautiful the colors. I mean, it's making this gorgeous sauce.
I'm going to go ahead and layer in just a touch of salt. Now we always
And this is the first time we put salt in here.
I like to add it a little bit at a time so you don't over salt. We use kosher salt. Yep, for our everyday cooking, and we leave it just in a little jar, and so we can just reach over and grab some between our fingers and put it in.
There you go.
And it's the best way to cook. That way we don't over salt things. If you taste salt, then it's over salted.
It's over salted.
Yeah. If you don't, then it'll just bring out all the flavors of everything else. We put the zucchini in there, and then this will start to wilt fairly quickly.
So is the goal here to get the zucchini to the point where it's soft, almost as if it were a pasta?
Right.
And so when that happens, this dish is done. Do you add any pepper?
I will.
You will?
Right.
Okay.
Right about now, I'm going to go ahead and crack some pepper in there. I'm also going to add, we had those little squash blossoms. We'll just put those in there for fun.
Hello. And of course, to always remind our cooks, it takes 1 second, but fresh cracked pepper, there's no substitute for it.
I love it.
It is. It's heaven. And this is just taking a matter of minutes because we prepared everything beforehand, and then when it can just cook it off.
That's right. And this will be ready in less than a minute.
Okay. I wonder if we should go to the pork chops and see how they're doing.
See how they're doing.
Right. So you took a peek, and you had the marks that you wanted, and you're wanting that diamond shape, so you've turned them around and you put them on a different part of the grill.
On a different part.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to just make sure the bone doesn't burn up, and just trying to get every part that needs to the right heat.
What is the test? Do you touch the top of it to see?
I do.
How do you do that? What do you want?
Just, what I'm looking for is for it to firm up. It's one of those things that does take a little bit of time.
And you really don't want to eat this rare because I'm told that the fat, when it cooks off a little more, there's flavor. Look at those grill marks. Chef, great job. I think Mayor Dunn is going to appreciate all the care that you put into this.
I hope she's hungry.
All right. Okay, Chef. So this has been on the stove for 3.5-ish hours.
3.5 hours.
And it's soft, so that's how you know it's ready.
Yeah, it's ready to go.
Now, what are you going to do to finish? What's seasoning to finish?
Now I've got a little bit of the cooking liquid there from the beans, because you never throw away your bean cooking liquid.
Okay.
It's as good as stock. You know, you want to save it. You can freeze it. Tons of flavor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you want to have that ready to go. So I've got the hominy there with some of its cooking liquid.
Yes.
I'm going to add a little bit of fresh herbs. I'm going to add a little bit more savory.
Okay, the savory that we had used earlier
So
to cook this off with.
Yeah, so we lightly flavored the hominy with some savory, and now we're gonna add a little bit more at the end for color and for also a little bit more flavor.
And it's the fresh taste.
Right.
Okay.
And we don't want to cook those herbs too long because they'll turn
And
brown.
they're pretty. Okay, so that's all we need to do to finish it off.
Well, I'm gonna add a little bit of butter too.
Oh, you know how important a little bit of butter is.
Just
it's a little bit of butter, and it won't hurt a thing, and the flavor is magnificent. And at the end, you can really
It adds a little bit more creaminess to the texture. I've got a little slotted spoon here. We'll use some of this liquid, but not a lot of it. We just want to get, and see, some of that butter we won't even actually get onto the plate.
But it's still flavoring the fish.
Right.
Chefs,
Yes.
we've got the pork grilled, we've got the zucchini pappardelle, and we have our hominy. And we know that we eat with our eyes first. So how are you going to plate this up?
Well, we're going to use a real simple plating method. We don't want to.
Simple works.
It really does. You know, I don't like to mess around too much. So I'm going to put a little bit of hominy maybe over here at about 10 o'clock. One for you and one for the mayor.
this is the hard part of my job. Eating this incredible food.
And this is, again, this is white corn hominy right here.
Yes.
So it's a little bit different than our yellow corn.
Yes.
Now, I didn't use tongs very much at all during this process at the beginning because I didn't want to mess this pappardelle up. But now I'm going to use a little bit of
Now
tongs.
it's ready. It's ready for the.
See how it really looks like pasta, and you can kind of like twist it up now?
It does.
We'll put a little bit of this right over here. I'm going to get some of that tomato. Bring some over for the mayor's dish. And we can't let any of this wonderful liquid, so we're going to put a little bit of that on.
All that's flavor. Its own sauce that it created. And again, a lot of that came from the tomato.
Yeah.
How beautiful is that?
Just a little bit of stock and most of the tomato.
If you wanted to make that vegetarian, you could do a vegetable broth or water.
Or water.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the event you wanted that dish.
Or a little bit of tomato sauce.
Chef Andy, you did some magnificent grilling here.
From there, all we're going to do is we're going to add the pork chops right on. And we've let the pork chop rest for just a couple minutes. It keeps all the juices in there.
Remember to let the meat rest.
It's very important on just about every meat, because as soon as you cut into it, if it has not rest, then it's all the beautiful flavor, the juices, they're all going to leach out of it.
So control yourself, contain yourself,
Yes.
and let the meat rest. Tell me what you're putting on now.
We're just adding a little demi-glace that we've made ahead of time.
This is probably not something you'd be doing at home necessarily, but we like to.
Well, of course, to get this dish, you need to come to room 39.
That's
but
right.
if you wanted to purchase a demi-glace at the store, it's not going to be this, but you could. Because I know that is a fairly complex process.
Correct.
Well, you know, chefs, I believe that Mayor Dunn is in the dining room and she's very hungry.
All right.
So, let's do it.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Bonnie Rabikoff, and I've been in the kitchen with the chefs from Room 39. We have just prepared a grilled heritage pork chop with zucchini pappardelle and hominy. Chef, what should we drink with this amazing dish?
Well, I think pork is very easy because I often think of very lighter style wines because it's not a bunch of red meat. It's not a steak or lamb. And so with a lighter style dish, chicken or pork, I often like Pinot Noir. And me personally, I don't like to spend a ton of money on wine. When you go out to eat, it shouldn't be a decision about who can one-up the other person and buy the most expensive bottle of wine. We definitely have those for those that like to do that. But I chose a Aubin Clement 2008 Santa Barbara County Pinot Noir. So this is a wine that will probably retail somewhere in the 20s. Mm-hmm. On our list, it's $49. Mm-hmm. It's got great fruit. It's got wonderful acidity. It's a very well-balanced wine. It won't overpower the food, but it will also bring out some of its flavors, and the food will also bring out some of the flavors in the wine.
So this is what we're going to drink, and it's going to work obviously well with the zucchini pappardelle and the hominy, the Pinot Noir.
Correct. In fact, it's one of those things. There's also a little bit of tomato. You saw me put the tomato in with the zucchini, and that portion, that acidity that's in tomatoes, it needs something that's got kind of some of those same sorts of flavors. And I often think like Italian wines. And this makes a lot of sense. I think when you think about tomatoes, you think of Italy a lot.
You do.
But I also feel like Italian wines, especially from Piedmont, also go very well with anything that has tomato in it. That kind of acid, it needs good acid also to kind of back it up.
So we're going to get that here. Now, what else, Chef, would you drink besides, it's summer?
Sure.
And we're into cool and refreshing. This would be at room temperature, I'm told, around 60 degrees.
Correct.
Okay. So what else would you suggest for this dish?
Well, us chefs, we also are known to drink a beer or two.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And so a nice beer from Boulevard would be wonderful. And really, you could go both ways. You could do a wheat or pale ale.
I would like pale ale probably with pork more than the wheat, but wheat go great with chicken or just hanging out with friends. You know, we love Boulevard. They do such a wonderful job.
They do,
you know.
and we're so fortunate to have them.
In fact, Andy, his wife, used to be a brewer at Boulevard. So we really, you know, look back to those.
I mean, you all are multi-talented. This very bar you helped to create, you finished it off. I understand that, was it Andy's father who made the tables?
Actually, my father made the tables, and then
tables.
Andy's mother owns a shop called Rooms That Bloom and supplied us with a lot of our accoutrements.
And your wives picked out the colors because we know that that's something wives do.
That's right. Yeah,
so
we couldn't do it.
You've created a wonderful space, and you're personally invested as well as financially invested.
That's right.
I want to thank you for, you can feel that in. Ooh.
Nice.
I think that's going to be nice. And you know, we need to make sure that all of this works. And so to do that, we have invited our very own, here at Liberty, Mayor Peggy Dunn to come in to be our celebrity taster. So she's the final decision maker about this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how she does.
She's coming.
That's great.
We've just been in the kitchen of Room 39 with Executive Chef Ted Habiger and Andy Sloan, and to taste the wonderful food the chefs have prepared, we've invited Mayor Peggy Dunn to join us. Mayor, thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to come and do this task of tasting food. Chef?
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you very much. Looks delicious.
Now what we have here, this is a grilled Berkshire pork chop with hominy and zucchini pappardelle.
And Chef, the wine you selected?
Yeah, the wine is a Pinot Noir from Aubin Clement in Santa Barbara. One of my favorite Southern California winemakers. It should pair wonderfully with food.
Well, the mayor will have to tell us. Okay,
That's right.
Mayor,
You be the judge.
please.
It will be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
So the task at hand is to taste the dish.
yes.
And I'm going to taste it with you to make sure.
Oh, good. Good. That'll be more fun that way.
To dine with
Beautiful.
friends. Oh,
Beautiful, beautiful.
of course, we're very pleased that Room 39 came out to Leawood, and
Oh, definitely. Our good fortune.
see, I get to see how this was. Is that amazing? So a
it's
pepperdelle is usually a pasta dish, and what Chef did, because we're in summer, he got some exquisite zucchini, and he sautéed it with garlic and tomatoes, and there's even a little flour in here. So it makes for a lighter dish during the summer months. Andy wanted to pair it with the pork.
Well, in the presentation.
Gorgeous. Because we eat with our eyes first.
We do. It's absolutely beautiful.
You know, this tastes like summer. The chefs, both chefs are very devoted to local, sustainable growing. And this, would you think of serving hominy?
And there's a little kick to it also. With the vegetables.
I think that's largely due to the slices of garlic, the added. Oh, that hominy is wonderful. I would never have thought to have prepared hominy this way.
No, I wouldn't either.
We let the hominy soak overnight to make it tender, and then he cooked it off with herbs. That is savory, and I never use savory when I cook, and it's just because I don't think to, but it's an herb that sort of is a cross between thyme and oregano, and it's very delicate and flavorful.
I can tell you're quite a cook, Bonnie, just
I'm
by
a
listening to you.
I'm a foodie.
A foodie. You must cook quite a bit.
Well,
Or
I
at
love
least
being
you
with
enjoy-
family
you
and
enjoy
friends.
eating.
I do.
At
I
any
do. I definitely enjoy eating. Oh, this pork. I think that's the best real pork chop I've ever had.
It's marvelous.
All right, our next assignment is to make sure that the wine works with the dish. So, again, it's come on, Mark. Cheers to
Oh,
Leewood and to
Wonderful. Wonderful wine with the dish. I think he made a great selection. Great choice. The whole thing's terrific.
Well, Mayor, we've had a great deal of growth out in Leewood, and one of the wonderful things, of course, is just having restaurants moving out here, so that what has traditionally been a midtown experience is now becoming part of what happens to our suburban areas.
Yes, Leewood has really become somewhat of a restaurant mecca for the region. And there are people that come from all over the metro to our Leewood restaurants, and we're thrilled to have them here. And I know they're still in Midtown as well, but
We're willing to share.
Delighted to have them here in Leewood.
We'll share. Well, I know that you have a busy schedule and you just had a granddaughter, so congratulations for your granddaughter.
Thank you.
But we appreciate you taking the time out to be a celebrity taster for us. Thank you very much
Well,
for doing
I'm enjoying it very much. Thank you. Never turn down a delicious meal.